The Internet Archive has reached a settlement with Universal Music and Sony Music Entertainment and Arista Music and Capitol Records because the Internet Archive has been a defendant in this case for quite some time, and the potential damages to the Internet Archive were potentially upwards of $500 million for all of the music that the Internet Archive pirated. And yes, I know many of you support what the Internet Archive is doing here. I understand why, but technically and legally, they did pirate a whole lot of music and give it away for free. That was under copyright. So they were going to lose this case. Whether that's right or wrong, the Internet Archive was going to lose this case. They have reached a settlement. And what's crazy is they reached a settlement right before, like hours, possibly even minutes before the deadline for updating the judge on the progress of reaching a settlement. I'm going to read the what they sent into the court yesterday, just verbatim. Please take notice that the plaintiffs, everyone we just listed, and the defendants, the Internet Archive, Brewster Kahle, the Kahle Austin Foundation, George Blood LP, collectively known as the parties, jointly write to advise this court that they have settled this matter. The parties request that the court vacate any upcoming deadlines while the performance of certain settlement terms is pending. Once performance of certain terms of the settlement is complete, the parties shall file a stipulation of dismissal of the entire action with prejudice. The parties expect to file the stipulation of dismissal within 45 days, dated September 15th, yesterday, 2025. Likewise, let me bring this up over here. The Internet Archive made a statement, a 1-paragraph, 2-sentence statement. Here it is. Update on the Great 78's lawsuit, which is what they call it. As noted in the recent court filings, which I just read you the whole entirety of, the UMG Recordings Incorporated v. Internet Archive, both parties have advised the court that the matter has been settled. The parties have reached a confidential resolution of all claims and will have no further public comment on this matter. That's it. That's the entirety of it. We don't know if there's financial relations. We don't know if the Internet Archive is paying anything. We don't know what the Internet Archive has agreed to do, what the Internet Archive has agreed to turn over. Are they turning over user account details of downloads and whatnot? We have no idea what the settlement is. They are making it very clear that they're going to keep it confidential. Now, I wanted to read a few things that I posted here. Over on X. Whatever the terms, one source says that the Internet Archive founder, Brewster Kahle, was the lone holdout for the last few days of negotiations, with all other parties on both sides, including the Internet Archive itself, agreeing to the terms, except for Brewster Kahle. Brewster Kahle was the one party who was like, no, I don't like these terms. Something changed his mind on Monday. Mere hours, possibly just minutes, before the deadline to provide an update on settlement negotiations to the court. So the judge mandated that the court be updated essentially every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, the court had to be updated. That deadline was yesterday morning. They notified the court right before that deadline that they had reached a negotiation. And according to my source, and I need to be very clear about this, I have one source on this. I've been working to get a second source, but everyone from the music studios to folks at the Internet Archive are mum's the word, except for my one source. And even then, I have very limited information. But my understanding is Brewster Kahle was not happy at all with the settlement and was holding out. He was saying, no, I don't want to sign this particular settlement. Universal and Sony were on board. The Internet Archive was on board. One of the other engineers, who is the other named party inside this lawsuit, as in the defendants, he was on board. He's like, yep, signing on the dotted line. He was in, but not Brewster Kahle. Brewster Kahle said no. No idea what changed his mind. Something changed his mind on Monday. I don't know if it was just that, he was out of time. I don't know if the plaintiffs were getting a little more hard-nosed about it. I don't know if something else came up, if someone convinced him otherwise. I have no idea. I have no clue. But something changed Brewster Kahle's mind on Monday. Now, what does this mean? And I think this is really important. We don't know. Because the terms of the settlement are being kept confidential by both parties. And again, if we bring this up here, we don't know what all terms are related to the settlement. Reading directly from this, the parties request the court vacate any upcoming deadlines while the performance of certain settlement terms, plural, is pending. Once certain terms of the settlement is complete, then they'll dismiss it. So technically the case is not gone yet. It's just that there's no deadlines for the next 45 days. There's no deadlines, and they expect to dismiss the whole thing in 45 days because they expect the terms to be reached. In theory, the terms may not end up being reached and the court case could continue in 45 days or so, right? That could potentially happen, but we don't know what those terms are. Are they going to be bringing down things off of the Internet Archive that are currently there? Are they going to be sharing information with these various music studios and producers from the Internet Archive about Internet Archive users? Maybe. We really don't know. So what impact this particular case is going to have on the Internet Archive is a complete unknown. We don't know what the financial impact is. We don't know anything. We don't know what the privacy impact is. We don't know what the content archivist impact is. No clue at this point. Total unknown. I've reached out for some more clarification. No one's talking. No one's talking about that. Now, it should also be noted that this is not the only recent such lawsuit that the Internet Archive has settled or lost. They've settled this one because they were almost certainly going to lose it. The previous one was the book publisher one. Was Hachette versus Hachette and Random House versus and Penguin versus the Internet Archive, and that was related to scanning physical copies of books and putting those online for people to freely grab and download without limitations at all, and without permission from the writers or the authors or the publishers or anyone. Right. So the Internet Archive was acting as a large scale book piracy operation from a legal perspective. And they lost that case. They then appealed that case and the appeal got shot down. The courts were like, no, Internet Archive, your defense of this is just straight up stupid. The previous ruling of you as guilty stands. The Internet Archive decided to just accept it. They could have escalated it to the Supreme Court, but that would have been ridiculous. It would have cost them a ton of money. There's no guarantee the Supreme Court would have even accepted the case. And the Internet Archive's defense would have never stood up in the Supreme Court, because the Internet Archive's defense, and for those of you who regularly watch the Lunduke Journal, you know this, but was essentially that the Internet Archive should be allowed to distribute pirated material because they spent a lot of money building the infrastructure to distribute and copy pirated material. That was literally their defense, was, oh, Judge, we should be able to give people as many copies of books or whatever as we want to because, we invested a lot in doing so. We should be able to break the law because we invested in breaking the law. Is the stupidest defense I can think of. The judge clearly agreed with my analysis on that one, but the Internet Archive lost that. Now, the Internet Archive clearly still exists to this day, right? It's been many months since the Internet Archive was like, okay, fine, we give up on this one. And it looks to be like the publishers actually were much cooler about it than I think many people expected them to be. The publishers, in whatever the terms were for the final ruling there, the Internet Archive took down the books that they were distributing pirated copies of for those publishers and just said, fine, we just won't do that anymore. Okay. That seems to be the general gist of their punishment there. So that had that impact. What the Universal Music v. Internet Archive case, how that settlement will impact the Internet Archive, unknown, but we'll keep an eye out for it, and we'll watch for it in the days ahead. Thank you to the Lunduke Journal subscribers for making this coverage possible. Go to lunduke.com and click on all the links where you can watch and listen and read and interact with the Lunduke Journal for free. And of course, you can support the Lunduke Journal if you want to help to keep this big tech free, non-woke, truly independent tech coverage rocking. The only place like it on the inner tubes, baby, and it's all thanks to all of you supporting this work. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare, end broadcast.